Welcome to our council meeting tonight. I'm Leslie Jones. I'm the filling in for Mayor Hakes. He has another family commitment this evening. We will call the meeting to order and start with an invocation by Council Member Egbert and a Pledge of Allegiance by Council Member Garrett.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that we could come together today as a council and as the community to discuss issues of importance to Mapleton City. We ask Thee to please bless us that we will make decisions and have discussions that will best benefit our community. We're thankful to live in such a beautiful community with wonderful neighbors and friends and beautiful views. Father, we ask for inspiration on how we might best serve, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Will everyone please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Our public forum. Do we have anybody? We've got okay. Will you please come up to the microphone and state your name?
First and last name and address.
Oh, address?
And blood type.
No idea who you guys
and back status.
You need to make sure we know who you are.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Mask covers you.
I'm on the mask. So I'm John Higgins. I'm a resident here in Mapleton. Gail and I are wearing these N95s because they said in the to go into the mission home, we need to have negative COVID testing and not have COVID. So this is preemptive for us to not have to get COVID. I understand it's rampant since we came back. But I just wanted to come before you. We go on our mission soon. Jeez, crybaby. But I just want to thank you guys for supporting the fire department. I've been on the EMS and fire department since '94. That's when we moved here. And it's been a pleasure to serve the citizens. Today I was at the doctor's office, and this nurse looked at me and said, "You run on the Mapleton Fire Department?" I said, "Yes, I do." And she said, "You came to our house and helped our baby, our 3-year-old daughter." And I said, "I'm sorry." What's that? Grandbaby, thank you. And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't remember the call. I don't remember calls, so old age, I guess." But she said, "I wanted to thank you. You were there so fast, and you were so there and caring and helping of that granddaughter." And I just wanted to thank you for your support for the fire department. I think what we've got now is a product where we are providing a good service to the community, a great service to the community. I don't know whether you've got the year-end report. I helped get the figures before I went on the cruise for the year-end report, and I mean our response times continue to lower and stuff like that, and along with a number of calls. But this lady I couldn't believe you got here like 2 minutes after I called, and that is a testament to one of the good testament of the fire department to the service of the citizens. So I just wanted to thank you for supporting the fire department. It's come a long way, and I know Chief Glasgow's pulled his hair out what little he has to do things to improve it, and I think it's a department that we can all be proud of, and I'm proud to have been a part of it at this point in time. I've set myself up to come back at the end of the mission, so we'll see what happens. I'll be an old geezer then, so we'll see. But anyway.
Go in the first day back, right?
Yeah. What's your release date? Do you have a release date, right?
Yeah, actually, I do.
I know. That's why I asked.
Yeah, it's in August of 2023.
Okay.
So,
The door's open.
Your shirt's
the certs are up,
maintain those.
Reed. Yeah, all of them are all up.
We expect 20 shifts in September.
Is that what it is? Anyway, so that's all I wanted to do is say thank you, and thank you for your support, and we'll see what happens, and see you in 18 months.
Thank you both.
I just want to say, I think it's the other way around, actually. I
Yeah.
think you guys have done so much for our community, and we're just really thankful for all that you've done, both with John and Gail. Yeah.
Yep, I think,
I'll just say this too. I started in EMS 5 years ago, and John and Gail were mentors for me from day one, and still have been all the way up till now. It's been a pleasure and an honor to work with you guys, and seriously, we expect you back. So.
Most people have a hard time leaving their family and grandkids. It's hard to leave fire.
Wow.
well, you two are both
Family.
You two
Yep.
like one of your
your model volunteers. You've contributed in many ways, and we are very lucky to have had you in our midst and look forward to August of 2023.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. This is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, which includes one item of approving the city council minutes from last week or 2 weeks ago.
Second.
Okay,
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Beck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Okay, we have one public hearing item on our agenda. This is a consideration of a resolution amending the fiscal year 2020 budget. We'll turn the time over to Bryce Euler, our finance director. He is home with the Rona, and so we've got him by phone. Go ahead, Bryce.
Thank you, council member. I have sent the budget to each of you, and wanted you guys to have a chance to look at those amendments and see those changes. And because I've sent that to you, I'm just going to review the budget and do a kind of a highlight overview of the changes. And then whatever questions you or the public may have, we can move to that point. In 2021, the budget surplus came in a little higher than we anticipated, and we exceeded our now 35% level that we can have in our reserves. So in order to be in compliance with that, we're going to transfer $600,000 from the general fund to the capital projects fund. Excuse me. In addition, in the general fund, each department is increasing their budgets a little bit. Total increase in expenditures in the total general fund is $272,625. And that includes an item that Corey, I'll turn over to you to take a minute to talk about that item right now if you want to go over that.
Yeah, council, one of the items we're looking at is, as you're aware, we brought Madison on board, who's been a great help for us, and thank you for Jessica kickstarting this topic over the last couple of years. With that, myself and Madison and the mayor have been talking back and forth of the idea that we've progressed. We've done some good things with rebranding, but would like to even go further into that, and we've kind of been watching a few things that other cities have been doing, and I don't know if you watched recently what Payson City did, is they went through a rebranding and got their community involved as well, and so the proposal was to put some budget together to go out and get a professional consultant to come and help us with even taking it to that next level, which would allow for some additional community input and where they can feel that they're a part of that too. So that's what that particular line item is for. Do you have any questions for me on that?
Is it the same individual that did Payson's? I've seen what they've done, and it's...
Yeah, that's the one person we've been having some conversations with. His name is Jed Morley. His company is, I think it's called Backstory Branding, is who we've been working with. I've had a couple conversations with Payson City as well to see how they felt that went, and they were very pleased with the outcome of that is what Jed was able to provide to them. So that is, Jed is the one we've been.
So
been
this is a
talking to.
proposal to hire a new full-time person?
No,
Or
all
hire
this
a
would do is,
contract?
this would be to give us, for that particular line item, to put a budget together. We're asking for approximately 24,000 to go out then and utilize his service to help us through that. You will, as a council, be very involved with this rebranding topic. So if this is approved this evening, and then I'd work with Madison and the mayor as we kind of finalize things, then it starts coming back to you as far as the whole project and how it looks, so that you're giving the input and the insight on it as we reach out to our citizens. But go ahead.
When was the last time the rebranding was done?
So the closest is, and kudos to Councilmember Egbert, who helped us a quick start, just getting a few little things done that needed to be, but we never did, and recognizing just the manpower aspects, was able to get the whole community involved, and that was something that with bringing Madison on full time, is our hope is to utilize her expertise, get a consultant in here now, say, okay, community, what would you like to see long-term as we continue to progress as a community? And that's, so to your question, I don't know if there's ever been a scenario like this before. We've actually went out and got some professional help to do that. And Councilmember Egbert, you can probably hit on a little bit more.
Yeah, we did some tightening up because
Yeah.
there were limited design standards and mixed logos being used and not defined what is our font and what are our palette. So we tightened that up a little bit. But are we putting this out to bid?
That's a discussion.
Lots of
that's-
great design firms around here.
Yeah, and that's a discussion you can have as a council this evening. If you'd like us to do that, then that is one of the options that we can have. What we're seeing as cost right now, we would not have to, but if that's something you'd like us to do, meaning our policy is set up that,
25.
yeah. But certainly, as a council, if you say, hey, we'd like to take this out to bid, we can do that. That's not a problem.
I would recommend it because different designers have such different styles, and even if Payson, it's not to say we would not use the same person, but I think we need to give the opportunity. There might be some people that are closely connected to our community who are in that space, who maybe would have a real vested interest in it. I'd like to see it go out.
Go bid.
Corey, can you give some perspective on the scope of project? Because if a branding scenario includes some designing, as Jessica's mentioned, but, you know, corporations that consult with these branding professionals often can include a more extensive process. So I don't know where he's at.
Yeah.
Where would you rate him, or how would you describe his approach?
Yeah, good question. Let me just pull this up real quick, and I can, give me
Yeah,
one second
and
here.
agree. We don't need someone to come in for 24,000 and tighten up a logo. We involved the public a lot in the tagline. That was actually a really public activity, and it was selected by a member of the community. But you're absolutely right. This would include our voice, our Pantone, doing the style guide. It includes the audience, the social media strategy, communication plan. So for 24,000, you can get a whole lot.
Yeah,
lot
and
more. So
we've had him provide to us a summary, and I could email that over to you, and you could take a look at that, and that might help. It'd give you kind of what his approach would be. Obviously, in looking at it, they're looking, and you just hit on them, the brand discovery, the brand platform, brand naming, narrative. Those are the type of things that graphic design work. There's a lot of topics with it, but he did I was really impressed with the summary he provided, and I think that'd be good for us to get that over to you. You
So
can
it
take a look
sounds
at
like there's just a very extensive brand deep dive, and branding is so much more than a logo, right? Branding is really uncovering those insights of how people feel about a brand. It sounds like he's got a methodology that is just so much more than
Yeah,
the visual branding.
Yeah, and it was also, me and the mayor were talking about this a little bit, is obviously with his businesses, he does a lot of branding, and we were discussing how there are some benefits of this Jed Morley, where working with local governments and familiar with how local governments are looking at with branding versus what, someone with a business might look at. So there are some benefits of that too, as the mayor and myself met with Jed. Again, we have not signed any agreements with him. It's primarily just been some discussions with Madison, the mayor, myself, and Jed. Again, the interest came as we were kind of watching what Payson had done, and in getting the involvement of their community. You can do surveys, where your community can be participating that way as well.
Well, I've seen what Payson's done online, just because I interface with some of that stuff through my course of work, and I didn't know what process they had gone through, but clearly they've really discovered and embraced an identity.
Yeah.
It's very different from the Payson of, previous years.
Well, and to Councilmember Beck's comment, and then also curious of Councilmember Egbert, just in regards to our logo, the history behind that, we're a little uncertain of that. Not even sure if it's one that anyone even cares about, and them are the little things you start looking at. Now, we did come in with, this is separate from our home happiness heritage that we talked about within the last year, but just the logo itself with the leaf and the colors and et cetera. There's really never been any discussion or true understanding of its history. Well,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When we were working on refining the logos, that the files were quality files and everything, that came up, and I think this is fantastic. It's definitely in my list of recommendations of things we should do. But the laurel leaves that actually are wheat-ish.
yeah.
I mean, I invented what I thought that was for. So I would love to have something people can wrap their heads around, or if it is the one we have, then let's define it and make sure that that's what we want moving forward. So
Yeah. Well, let's do this. Let me email you out the information as far as the summary report that he provided to us. And then based on that, reach out to me individually. Tell me what your thoughts were there. And if you're like, hey, I like what I'm seeing there, we could move forward. If you're wanting to get some additional bids, that's not a problem as well, and we can do that. So,
Just a quick question.
uh-huh.
Is the 24,000 ideas on what the rebranding will be, or does it actually implement the rebranding to where it's all accomplished?
All of that. Now, I will note it could be that as we start that project, and when I send this email and you see the proposal, you might come up with some additional ideas. So it's possible the 24,000 will cover 75–80% of it, and then you might want to say, hey, we want to go tackle a few more things with this too, and we'll have to see down the road. The reason I bring that up is that's what Payson ended up doing, is they got down the road. They're like, let's add this to it and do a few things here, and so they were starting to utilize some additional help. So it's a good question. It's possible that will take care of all of it, or it's possible that as we continue to move forward with it, you'll say, let's add a few things here and there to it as well. Like I said, that summary I think will give you a good feel for that.
Corey, is it Backstreet branding? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's called. I'm just gonna pull this up. His name is Jed Morley's one, and it's a different Jed Morley than the one that came here about 8 months ago that met with us on remember
Oh, yeah, on the app.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let me just get the right.
Backstory branding. That's it.
Yeah, backstory branding.
Backstory.
Take a look at the key. I think the exciting part that I've seen for Payson is at least from watching it from a distance, is the community was able to get involved with it. So it became something to them that they all recognized and knew that, hey, this is who we are now. And they really kind of focused around trails and their recreation type theme. But
Corey, it'd be great to look through that summary. I'm glad to hear that his methodology does involve gathering insights from the community, because some agencies have kind of a they don't admit it, but they have more of a templated approach.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to hear that he's gaining those insights.
Yeah, so the key this evening would be to just approve some budget. Now that what I'm hearing from you, then I will send out an email that you can see the proposal. We was also planning on talking about this at the retreat, and so we won't sign off on anything until I feel comfortable that you as a council is saying, yeah, let's utilize this. But the key tonight would be to put a budget towards it so that we can get a dollar amount to it, so. Bryce, you still go ahead.
Fine as we support it, we need to do something. That just will do it.
Yeah, and again, thank you, Councilmember Egbert, for your efforts as you helped us. And have you met Madison? She was here at that last meeting. Yeah. It's fun to have. I'll tell you what, it's helped and saved us a lot of time just in
that
that
smile that Camille has.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right, Bryce, you awake?
Yeah, I think the COVID's gone now.
Go ahead, Bryce.
Thank you, Corey. Now John's gonna talk. Just kidding, John. That is everything with the general fund expenditures. Are there any other questions with the general fund expenditures? Okay, the capital projects fund expenditures, we're just increasing those 36,000 for a project, not a project, but for some equipment that council has already approved for the fire department to purchase. We're just putting that on the budget. Some exciting news with Mapleton Community Network construction. Matt is increasing his budget by $4.9 million, which that's a large number, but all that means is construction's moving a little quicker than he budgeted for in our first go-around. So he may or may not spend all of that. He just wanted to be prepared as he gets closer to the end of the year, so that he'll be on budget with those items. And then the water fund and the PI fund just have some capital projects that are being budgeted for in this amendment. So with that, again, having already reviewed the budget and having already had a chance to look at that, I'll turn the time over to City Council for any questions and the public hearing.
Do we have a discussion now, or do we do the public hearing part first?
Either way. If you had a few things you want to discuss, you can. If not, you can open it to the public.
Any questions or comments before we open up to public comment?
Just have one, maybe, that would be appropriate. I notice there's quite a bit of an increase for the fire department. Most of that's probably is the IHC transports. I'm just wondering how that was relative to budget as far as the income that we're receiving from the transports, if it offsets the additional expense. Is there an indication?
Bryce, did you hear that comment?
I could not hear that.
Bryce, just Councilmember Carlson was talking with the fire department and recognizing some of the expenditures there. Also, just the interest of what we're seeing with the revenues that's coming through with the IHC transports. And Chief Jackson, you could probably touch on it as well, but.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, they more than exceed.
That's what I expected, but I thought maybe you might raise that. But that's just fine. Yep. Just wanted to verify that. I want to make sure.
I know Chief Glasgow, we've had quite a few conversations, and we've been keeping close eye on just seeing what that budget's doing on both sides, on the expenditures and the revenues. And
just to add to that, the Higgins mentioned a year-end report that you guys will be receiving soon that'll give you an update on those numbers. So
right. You'll
have it.
I guess I just had a question. I wasn't quite able to follow, but for the new fire engine that was purchased, did that come from the general fund or for the capital projects fund or a different line item?
So
and then there's,
if I understand right, you're wondering where the engine was purchased from, the fire engine?
Right.
If I remember right, that was budgeted for out of the capital projects fund, which within the capital projects fund, we have monies earmarked for vehicle purchases and vehicle replacement. And it was part of that, came from part of that vehicle replacement program that we have budgeted, or not budgeted, but earmarked.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we'll open this public hearing item for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to comment? Hi, Rick.
Name's Rick Mango. Appreciate all you guys' work. This is kind of out of order because you guys are going to talk about this, and I actually kind of came to hear you discuss it so I could understand it better. So my questions might be out of order, but so I oh, sorry. It's kind of sticking in my face. I can't see my notes. And a clarification real quick, if I can, Camille, is I was trying to look up on the website the minutes from last time. I couldn't find those. Okay, so they're not published yet. Is that why? Okay.
And Rick, are you aware that these meetings are on YouTube as well? So you can watch those immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was here. There were some things that I wanted to follow up on and look
Okay.
at, and I was trying to find the minutes, and I couldn't, though. That makes sense. Anyway, so if you don't mind, while you're having your discussion, I'm going to assume you guys have probably already gone through the budgets and stuff, and you're not going to go through everything, and I wouldn't expect you to go through all the details here. It may be just a very simple, quick meeting, but because I'm not privy to that, or I don't know what you've already talked about or gone through, my questions, I guess, first off, would be as far as the surplus goes. So I understand there's a surplus. You can't maintain, this much of a surplus. You've got to do something with it. So my question would be, what other options are there? Because obviously some of it, you've already spent some of this money, so it's going to go into that budget anyway. The budget's just going to increase. Some of it you're going to choose that, well, hey, we've got extra money, we're going to do X, Y, and Z because we want to do it anyway, and so this is a good year to do it. We have a surplus. My fear is, and it may be a completely unfounded fear, is that we have extra money, we have to spend it. Kind of like that extra, end of the year budget at church or something, and so we don't want to lose it, so we're going to spend it, which is ridiculous. So I'm not assuming you're doing that. That's just kind of what in your discussion, if you can kind of address that. And if, in fact, you didn't spend it, for example, on this budget, do you even have anywhere else where you can put it? Or do laws make you, force you to spend money that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise spend? Obviously, a lot of it went to the Capital Projects Fund. I don't know if that was like the maximum you could put in it, or you could put more for future use. Anyway, so that's just, if you don't mind, while you're talking real briefly, is so that I can understand that part, kind of how much of it is needs-based and how much of it you're just trying to spend money. And on the rebranding, if you don't mind, since you brought that up, what are we, Corey, what's the rebranding for? What are we trying to sell? I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess the simplicity of it is our community right now. When you go to the website or city logo or colors or whatever it might be, there's no theme to it. Who are we? What are we going to be in the future? And that's kind of, again, we hit on last year. We came in with that home heritage happiness, and I think that was a great start. Really went along with what we did with Pioneer Days. But we want our community to have that feel of, hey, this is who we are. And that's what we're hoping this rebranding will do, is allow this community to be a part of that. And a couple of council members, you could also hit on this probably better than me, as you've heard from your residents, your citizens who have that's been a talking point in the past. But go ahead, council members.
I think when we think about a brand exercise, often we think about corporations, right? Public or a private sector organizations selling widgets. But a brand is how we feel about a name, a business, an entity, whatever that might be. In my personal opinion, I believe as Mapleton is growing, I believe that there's a bit of an identity crisis. Are we a small, quiet little farm town? I've been told by people that have told me that I feel like I've arrived in Mapleton. There's an exclusivity to it. There's this, I feel like there's a bit of an identity crisis, and depending on what Jed Morley's process is, if it really is gathering insights from the community, those people that have those talents can really craft and capture the brand's story. And it helps us, I think it's an essential piece of not creating a culture, but discovering and preserving the culture in Mapleton. And that drives many of the other activities. I'm thinking more like events activities, but clearly there's online visual branding that reinforces what that culture really is. And so that's how I see it from a public sector entity like ours, but that's no different really than even, you know, a Cotopaxi or a Nike, for example. We're just not selling widgets.
Yeah, you're wearing a Operation Underground Railroad logo, which is a powerful, powerful logo that brings people together around a common purpose for good. And that's one of the things that as we rally our community around, that we do the same things. It's pride, it's ownership, it's satisfaction, and it's reflected in a brand. You can see we were up at the, most of us were up at the Utah League of Cities and Towns meeting today rocking our Mapleton shirt. And there's a reason for that. And rallying the community about it and including them in the process is a great opportunity we've never taken advantage of, other than really this Home Heritage Happiness tagline. And so there's so much reflected in that. I mean, I've been like, where's our store? Everyone should have Mapleton shirts everywhere, you know? So I think there's so much that connects to it, but there's also science behind it, where people rally around a brand or a community and connect to that it increases safety in environments because people have a greater sense of pride in their community. They're connecting on a visual way. So just like if you see a Disney logo, I mean, there's one of the most famous brands in the whole world where it creates a sense of joy for many people. For me, it's anxiety, but I'm kind of kidding. But it creates that emotion and that feeling, the connection. Is it absolutely fundamental that we do it? I mean, if I feel you getting to the nuts and bolts of spending tax dollars, I could probably argue both ways on it, but that's why we get these proposals and see what they'll deliver with the amount of money. I'm a big fan of it. When I came on, I saw in fact, there's still a fuzzy logo. Chief has a fuzzy version of a logo on letterhead that drives me nuts. Our public works vehicles that have like this ancient 1980s logo on. Why we're driving those cars, I don't know. But it's messy. It's not unified. It's not the same message. And so it isn't just the look, but even when we're talking about ramping up our communication, our public information officer, it's how we speak to the public. Are we using informal language? Are we formal? How are those relationships built with the public? And so brand is so much more. The messages include their brand. A lot of people think, well, your colors, logos, fonts, that's easy, but it really is those layers and nuances, and like Councilmember Jones said, it's that sense of how you feel, and Mapleton is all about how we feel here, and that's why we love it. And so if we can create a visual reflection of that, I think it'll be even more powerful in terms of how our community owns this environment. So I'm pretty passionate about having a really solid brand. So that's my perspective on it. It doesn't matter if we're public or private. The purpose is the same. You want to rally people around a common goal. So just like Operation Underground Railroad, that logo is critical to their success. So I think it's...
But it also brings in revenue so that, you know, it's fundraising.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's sell some shirts.
And for, well, if we think we can make money off it, that's one thing. But,
Well, but
that's kind of why I wanted to understand, because we're not trying to make money. I was curious, like, are we trying to bring more people into the city? Are we trying to raise home values?
It's more internal purposes.
You know what, I would look at it as building social capital, right? We're not selling widgets. We're not trying to make money per se, but there's a lot of value within a community to build social capital. Well, what does that mean in a city? As Jessica mentioned, people take a little different level of ownership within their own little neighborhood. There's a little more ownership of community events, community involvement. There's a different vibe that can occur. I liken it to something that probably was very similar to what Mapleton was, 20 years ago when there were, or 30 years ago when there were 500 people. That was an ingrown ownership of what needed to be done in a community. So I look at it from, no, it's not a revenue driver. It's a social capital driver. It's weaving that social fabric in a way that as we grow, because we will grow, how can we maintain and preserve that social fabric of who we really are as Mapleton? Mapleton's different than Provo. Mapleton's not Spanish Fork. Are we a farm town? Are we aspirational? What are we? I think it depends on who you talk to. But the underlying feeling behind what we are, I believe there's a cross-section between all of those perspectives. And it takes somebody with some skills to uncover that and create that brand story that we are all part of. So, yeah, I think technically, is it a fundamental, essential service from government? Well, probably not. But I also think that it's an essential part of creating a community. And a community is different than government. And so I'm supportive of the investment because of that social capital piece.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it. Last thing really quick. Actually two things, if you don't mind. The MCN construction, so apologize, I'm not privy to that. I'm going to assume that the bond is paying for the 4.9 million, is where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think there was bond payments in there in the budget. And so that's being covered, and so that's already in the budget, the bond payments, right? This is just starting a little bit earlier than was expected. Is that how I'm understanding this?
Bryce, can you hear that that question about the MCN?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. So the bond payments have already been budgeted. This budget amendment is strictly for construction or work in progress. So the bond payments is kind of a separate budget line item, and yeah, that's a set figure. What's variable is going to be the construction and the rate of construction. So that's the amendment that's happening, is for the strictly for construction projects for the. And when I say construction, that also includes engineering services that are being provided that will support the construction of the building of the fiber system.
And then do you just draw down on that? Is it like a line that you draw down on the bond as you spend that money, or does that come out of the city's budget first and then get reimbursed through the bond?
No, so the bond is this. I don't know if you're wanting this much detail, but the bond is actually sitting at a bank, and as we expense those funds, we submit expense forms, and the bank reimburses us from the bond. We then put that back into the fiber. So the bond is paying for all of the construction right now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what you were asking.
Yeah, that was exactly.
Kind of how that works.
Kind of like a line credit.
Yeah.
And then my last question, sorry for all the time, but my last question was on the 4th of July, or the 24th of July celebration. So my understanding was on that one previously is I thought that was sponsored and we didn't have a big hit there. It looks like we're adding even more of a hit now. I think it's up to $70,000. So is that, how does that work? Did we lose sponsorship on that? Is that why?
That's a good question. I had actually brought it, and you're welcome to look at this, is just seeing the cost. So a couple things that happened to us this year. Obviously, the church in years past have been one that's kind of helped with a lot of the different activities. And this year they came to us and said, hey, we'd like to no longer do that. So there was a cost involvement with that change. And I've got the breakdown of all of the specifics with it. The other thing that came is our fireworks did go up. They increased substantially. I can get you the exact number here. Let's see. Yeah, between a ping pong ball drop and the band and the fireworks, we were approximately about 69,000. And the fire
additional or total, you mean?
Total.
Okay.
Total of those. That was the actual from
That's what the projected is for this year.
Nope, that was the actual from last year, from 2021. I would anticipate it'll be similar this year. Your other costs came in. We decided to do more activities throughout the week. pickleball tournaments, the cornhole, et cetera. Those weren't too expensive. For example, the cornhole tournament with prizes and what so came to about $1,200. $1,150 is what it was. Pickleball tournament was about $2,300. Friday night Old Town Square event was new. That came to approximately $2,700. So it just kind of list goes through there. But your big cost was the fireworks did go up. In years past, we were definitely getting a still, and I started to get that feel the last couple of years where they were saying, hey, we can't keep this up for that price. They were only charging us about $12,000.
Oh, are you
bucks.
kidding?
I think this year, was this year 30 is what we ended up paying for the firework portion. So the cost those increased. And your point's right on as far as the sponsors. This year we got a total of 11,500 sponsors. And we believe moving forward we can do much better than that.
There was only about, what, 3 months worth of runway on that?
Yeah, we haven't in years past been very proactive on the sponsorship. There's some pros and cons of that. You go out there and knock doors and say, hey, will you sponsor for a city type thing? But we've got some individuals, volunteers who are interested in doing that for us, that they said, hey, let's get some sponsors. And so they're this year going to help us with that and be more proactive. In fact, we're meeting next week to start that progress. That this year, our hope is that we're going to double in just sponsorships.
Corey, I had heard at some point that there was, or supposed to be, some geofencing data collected at the event last year. Do you know if that was actually done, or was that? What that would do was tell potential sponsors, the people that attended our events, here's how many there were, and this is where they came from. Mm-hmm. So so you would attract people outside of the immediate vicinity.
Yeah, we haven't got that number yet. I need to follow back up with them to see, because they talked about it and then they never did get it to us. And
so you don't know if it was actually executed or not.
We didn't pay for that. It was just kind of someone had told us that they could do that.
Okay.
Well, I think it's an interesting subject to think about. It's a big ticket item for a small town, small city budget. And I don't know if people knew that we were paying that much, if they still want it or not. I mean, the fireworks show is amazing. There's no doubt about it. And it's a huge event. Everybody loves it. I mean, I like it. It's a blast. And it's great for us here, but it draws so many people from everywhere else. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's really become something that Mapleton puts on for the county. And I don't know, maybe that's okay, but it might be something to look at, or maybe trying to monetize that.
That's where our surplus money's going, Rick.
Yeah, I know.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But I mean, just anyway, something to think about. Not right now. But,
we have talked about monetizing it and charging for parking, or trying, because we've recognized that a lot of it comes from outside of Mapleton too.
Yeah. One other note: just the total registration fees collected. So that's people, the kids in their activities, etc., was $13,060.55. So
very good. That
was significant. I anticipated the 2021 total expenses came to $109,342. Take the sponsorships and the fees out of pocket was probably $84,781.56 was the number I'm coming up with. And like I said, I think we can, with the help of some volunteers and the couple that are talking to me, they seem pretty proactive. I think we can get that budget down to where we were at before in that 40,000 mark. But this was a little interesting year, and with some of the changes that took place. But
okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
We've got your first question. Let's get an answer to that. Bryce, I'm going to ask if you'll weigh in on this as well. I don't know if you heard Rick's initial question. It was regarding the surplus.
Yeah.
Would you like him to restate that question? Or are you good with what he was asking?
Let me answer to my best ability, and then Rick, if you need more, then let's go from there. But I believe to answer your question, no, we definitely do not promote a spend it or lose it kind of budget. The city council approves the budget. The city council approves the budget, and then we stick to that budget. What's challenging is predicting revenues and predicting sales tax and property tax and building license permitting. and all of those different revenues, they can come in really high, or they can just kind of hit it right on the budget. And that's what happened to us last year. Was the revenues actually came in quite a bit higher than we anticipated. Even budgeting a little bit higher, we definitely approached the budget on a conservative side. So with a conservative approach to the budget, plus the revenues coming in much higher than we anticipated, we just had a much larger surplus than planned.
So
So we then transfer the money to the capital projects fund, which does not exactly have a limit that we are legally required to have. Currently, we have about a $5 million capital project fund, and yeah, that's a large number, but the capital projects that our department heads, the Parks and Recreation, the Police Department, the Road Department, they could use that money up pretty quickly with the projects that they have, and it will be utilized according to council's discretion. But there are lots of projects that will utilize those funds, and I think that's all I can remember from your question. What else?
we have
do you
$4 million
have from that?
in road reconstruction that has to be done. I mean, those are things that we don't just write a check out of that general fund, but that's one example of a large ticket item that's just looming.
Just PI, $10 million just on trying to finish the PI projects. Our Parks and Rec right now, that facility over there is in rough shape. So there's a lot of projects that could.
Yeah, I
use that
don't
money.
really see any issue with putting money into the capital projects fund. That's understandable. That's a savings account, basically. You're keeping the money for future what you need. My question was more attributed to the general fund expenditures, for example, going up 272,000. Could more of that been put into capital projects? And based on what he said, yes, it could have. So obviously you guys decided, or somebody decided, to take that money instead of setting it aside, but actually use it in the budget. Again, some of that was necessary. Price, costs went over, there were overruns and all, and I understand. Some of them you chose to buy an ambulance or whatever. And so, but the rest of it, my question was just like, is it like, hey, everybody, if anybody wants to spend more money, we've got extra right now, throw in your numbers and we can increase your budgets? Or is it like specifically like we only wanted to take what we had to take and then put the rest, in the fund?
As the council liaison with the budget committee, and Councilmember Garrett is the alternate to that, we meet with Corey and Bryce, average about quarterly, maybe, or so. I can assure you that Bryce takes a very conservative approach and counsels us accordingly. So no, I would concur in those conversations. It's not a spend it or lose it idea at all. And I appreciate the guidance that Bryce brings to those conversations. There's some prudence in leaning more to the conservative budget side, and I believe that Bryce guides us a lot in that direction.
Okay. And by the way, this is very clear, Bryce. I appreciate that, as far as everything that was posted and to be able to understand it and the notes and so forth. So appreciate the transparency. But anyways, thanks for your time. Sorry to take up so much of it. I appreciate what you do.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
You.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Okay, let's go to administrative reports.
Yep.
No. Oh,
Motion.
yeah, we have to have a
And
motion.
we got a work session, yeah. Yep.
Close the public hearing, excuse me. We'll close the public hearing, sorry. Are there any other discussion amongst the council? Or a motion? Anyone?
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve or adopt the resolution amending the fiscal year budget 2022 as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, there has been a motion to approve a public hearing item by Councilmember Garrett, and it has been seconded by Councilmember Reed.
Egbert, yes.
Beck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Yes, so we're going to close this meeting, and then, yeah, we'll go to our work session.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to administrative reports.
Do administrative reports in a work session? Is that your plan?
Yeah, we close the meeting and then have our work session, right? Or is the work session
No,
public?
You can just.
Oh, okay,
part of it.
great. Okay, we'll do administrative reports, then go to the work session.
I'm excited for the work session, so I have nothing to report tonight for you.
Just had a comment from some people. I wasn't quite sure what the status was, but I understand we have a water leak in the basement in the gym area that has been nagging on for a while. Is that just kind of been forgotten about, or is it still being worked upon?
Oh, I tell you what, it's been a miserable topic, and
Maybe I shouldn't bring it up.
no, you're
but
fine. I'm glad. I'm actually glad you are. We've kind of beat our heads against the wall over the years. It comes in different cycles. What we think's happening in the summer months, it's when the sprinklers are on, and you know that particular week gets a lot of water there in the landscaping, and then we get a big old storm. It's just flooding that corner of that basement. We went in over the years and we've dug it all up and resealed. There's a couple of spots where we've had to run conduit in and what. So it appears from what we're seeing, it's coming from underground and up. Our latest plan was to do a couple little cleanups on our gutters. That I don't think that's going to fix the problem. I honestly think we're going to have to do some going in there, digging that up and re-landscaping it and trying to get the water to run a different direction. You'll notice out there how that on that side where the landscaping kind of goes to the middle there, drains, I should say. There's some drains out there as well. If you go out there on particular days after big storms, it's like jello. I mean, you're just walking in it. We're probably going to need to just put a good amount of money, and when I say that, you know, 15,000 or so, and just redo that whole landscaped area. Once we do that, then I think that'll fix the problem in the basement. Sadly enough, what we've done in a recent one, we just tore the carpet up. So you go down there, about a fourth of their gym is concrete, and so it you know, it looks a little tacky down there. Yeah, I've been pretty discouraged with it. But what I need to do is come spring is come back with a proposal of how we redesign that area. It's probably flooding, what, 5 times a year?
Oh, that often.
Yeah. We've had one in the winter month within the last probably month and a half. So the winters, we usually don't get them. I was actually kind of surprised on this one. I think it's mainly, again, we're getting them when it's a good rainstorm. And any good rainstorm then is where we're seeing that problem.
So it's not necessarily water coming down the wall, it's more in the groundwater seeping in from the
Right.
bottom.
We had Jeffers Restoration come out on the last one, which was about 2 months ago. And he had a little machine that he run through the sheetrock and stuff. He's like, yeah, that's dry. We had a couple years ago where it was running down the sheetrock, and that was because where we had that conduit in the wall, it was not sealed properly. So we sealed that, dug that up, and sealed it. But my opinion is we've got to come up with a whole nother landscape plan over in that area.
What was the word earlier we learned? Non-functional turf? Non-functional turf?
Yeah, that's what I was.
More about it now.
We gotta get rid of that non-functional turf.
I am
Do a
kind
definition
of.
first. It's not defined, if that's defined.
I probably should be more proactive. I should have been more proactive down there. I keep thinking, okay, we fixed the little thing. We sealed the conduit. And it just keeps coming. But at the point now, it's like, all right, re-landscape it. But
On that note, what about the public safety building? We spent a lot of money to repipe all the sprinklers in there. Is everything completed and buttoned up and no more leaks, right?
Yeah, we haven't had a leak from above for a while, so
Sweet.
they didn't put that chemical in there that really stinks either, too, so that's been nice.
Yeah.
yeah, that was a couple years ago where we had some.
That was a
Well, it
project.
was ongoing for many years, and we fixed
Yeah.
it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely valid question. We've just got to fix it this spring. And then the game plan is obviously go in there and fix what's been left there now with where we've had to tear that carpet out.
That sounds fine.
Jessica?
Okay, well, we had a fun day on the Hill for the LCT League on the hill, and I did the board, I'll go closer. And then we had the board meeting afterwards. I'm not going to rehash this stuff because I think a lot of us were in the Legislative Policy Committee. That term non-functional turf came up, and I was like, well, what's that? But then it came up again at the board meeting, and so it wasn't exactly what I thought it was. And but basically, there's all kinds of different legislation coming up about governing landscaping, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens here, because we've certainly talked about conservation here, and I've had citizens reach out and request that we had rules on maximum and minimum square footage for turf. So, you know, obviously there's a diversity of thought there, and obviously the same is true with the legislature, but non-functional turf is really, it's grass that's put in, and it's not for regular human recreation or critical business purposes, like offices and medical facilities that have a ton of grass that's not really used. So that came up actually again. Some other interesting things that came out of the board meeting, talking about permitting that was continued, that there actually might be legislation pop up this session towards the end about the state wanting to take over cities' permitting. Also, there's conversation about cities compensating builders for when a permit should have been approved, and that came up in the Legislative Policy Committee, and I thought, well, who's going to define the word should? Good luck with that. And then Representative Waldrop was in the board meeting, talked about the Commission on Housing Affordability, the SB 34+, which could be interesting. A couple notes that I put that I think are particularly relevant for us. The plan is to propose that internal accessory dwelling units have no impact fees. That'll become illegal to charge those, but that they'll still require licensing and permitting and minimum safety standards for those, which is good. And so that's that. I attended this week our quarterly ham drill with the CERT program on Sunday, and that was fun. I met with Sue Dial to discuss a lot of what's going on in CERT, and I've submitted a request to bring back a community safety committee. And then I have a question. What's the latest on the website?
So, yeah, good question. We're getting pretty close on the website, and that, kudos to Sean and Madison. They've been working hard, and we've also had another individual kind of helping us as well, trying to get it to that point. This rebranding is making us want to just see if that's going to happen, to see what the timing is. That was going to be part of the retreat discussion. We're going to give you an update on the website, and then say, what we didn't want to do is tell our community, hey, check out our new website, and then 2 months later rebrand the whole thing a little bit. And so we're trying to figure out that timing right now. But the retreat is where we were going to discuss that and give you a briefing. But the website probably, I'd say about 95%, 95% done.
Great.
So, which also adds to what we want to do with the fiber network as well, and with the website and rebranding and all that kind of stuff, because that plays an important role, what our community sees for the logo of the network system. But
And we are getting some attention about what we're doing with fiber. I've had many cities reach out to me. One specifically today wants to get our studies and everything, so I'll reach out to get appropriate. I mean, obviously it's all public information,
yeah.
but we're definitely being watched. So
yeah.
I said, well, will either be a phenomenal success or will be a train wreck for voting for it. But I think we'll be a big success, so I'm excited about it. But.
Great, thank you.
Yes, I met with Logan yesterday, and we're trying to build off the momentum from last year in having a clear mission for the Parks and Rec Department, and setting up roles for advisory in an advisory committee and subcommittees. And so we're making some tweaks. I know Logan is going to meet with you, Corey, and we'll send out a draft to the council, and then I'm not sure.
Councilmember Egbert, we utilized that
right
report. Okay, keep going, sir.
Yep. And we'll be bringing that up as an agenda item, probably not next meeting, but in a couple of meetings. And then with the Youth City Council, I attended their banquet a couple weeks ago, and it was like their end of the year banquet. And she said today that Joanne said today that next week is when they'll be bringing on, they'll be selecting their new Youth City Council, and then they'll be having leadership positions. I think next week as well.
While we're talking about that, youth council too, that was going to be a discussion item at the retreat, just to get your thoughts for the future and the vision of that.
And I probably should mention that we had 11 youth city council members there today.
Good.
There was one that was stuck at home with COVID, but I thought it was a good showing from our youth city council.
Good. Good to hear. Yeah.
It's a quick question relative to you speaking. I just looked on our website and it still has Jim Lundberg and it doesn't have.
We,
I don't know if that's an easy.
I'm still
change
under
or not.
trial right now. That's what we decided
I wanna
before.
get you down
Yeah.
there so you can see what it's really like.
Money back,
30 days.
Right, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Casey. I don't have an update. Theron?
Not much, other than just to kind of whet your appetite. We're going to have a nice presentation for the new vehicle tracking replacement system that we're building. We're going to roll that out at the retreat, so
Great.
so stay tuned.
Great, thank you.
One thing I would like to do is we don't often give our planning commission kudos, but I just as an update, they voted for a new chairman and vice chairman just a couple weeks ago or last week, but they're doing a phenomenal job, and just wanted to point that out.
They are. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Bryce, do you have an update, Bryce?
Nope, thanks for your help with the budget amendment.
Okay, thank
Sounds like
you.
you need to go to bed.
Yeah, you are dismissed, Bryce. You are dismissed. Camille or Corey?
He was
Thank you.
worried I was going to get rid of depreciation if I presented tonight, so he wanted to be here.
Is he home with Corona or with a Corona?
Probably wishes he had a Corona.
Just a reminder that the Winter Wonderland Ball, the seniors, is on Saturday. So they've been doing a lot of preparation and they're excited about it.
That's great.
Just 3 dates for you, keeping in mind that Councilmember Jones, you brought this up last time, February 8th. Is that still on for the chamber? 7:45 to 9 a.m.? Okay, now we'll send an email out here in the next week, just a reminder on that. 7:45 to 9 a.m. there at the Springville Library. A light breakfast or light?
There might be.
Okay, okay. And then retreat, we sent that email out, still plan on February 16th and 17th. And I have not received any other, information from you as a council. If there's any items that you want that are different than what I put in that email, let me know. We can add those.
Your list was good. Do you have the hours for those dates ironed out? I'm helping with some facilities, so I want to be able to.
Well, the
specify
game
that.
plan was to consider on the Wednesday of the 16th from 2 to approximately 6 o'clock. Did you want dinner? We were considering we could just bring food in there like at 5:30 and eat and then be done. So that was kind of the 2 o'clock to 6, and then on Thursday start at 8:30 and go till approximately about 3.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
And we'll put together, in about 2 weeks, we'll send out the agenda and kind of the time frame of each of those items.
Is that 16th to 17th?
Yep, 16th and 17th of February.
So I have the 16th as our city council meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
so-
just going to ask, we're still having a council meeting that night, or is this in lieu of?
In lieu of, that's the game plan. So I've asked my department heads, unless there's a dire need of a council item, to hold off on the 16th, so that,
So we probably will cancel the meeting.
correct.
I would
That's the
say-
plan right now.
I would say don't do dinner. If you're ending with dinner, most of us, I'd rather go back to my family unless we had business
Okay.
we were conducting.
Yeah,
I'd
that's
rather
good.
not spend the money on dinner.
Okay, yep, that's not a problem. We can just bring some, like we've done in the past, some light snacks. And so we'll plan on February 16th, 17th, and like I said, take a look at that list of items if there's anything else you'd like added to it. And then been teasing Dallas, but the State of the City address is, so we're scheduling that for February the 24th. And so kind of put that in your calendar as well. And again, we'll send an email out on these days.
Those are usually at around noon or after
Yep,
lunch,
yep,
right?
12 o'clock, yeah. Usually goes from about 12 to 12:45. Here at the council chambers is probably what we're going to do this time.
State of the city.
And the chamber banquet is that evening, too. I need to make sure Mayor Hakes knows that.
Okay. Where's that at?
Here.
Is that here too? We'll get you an email next day or two with these dates. That's all I had. So. Got
Okay.
Matt for the.
Matt, do you have an administrative update? If not, we will close the meeting, the official meeting, and then I'll go into our work session.
Yeah, well, we don't need
we
to
don't need to close the
No,
meeting, so we'll
when
just
the
go.
work session's done, we can just close the meeting.
Okay, now, I'm looking here, is there a closed meeting, or is that just a
No.
standard item on the agenda? Okay. Okay, let's move into our work meeting. This is the topic, or we're here to discuss the Mapleton City Network utility rates. So Matt will take it away.
Is this the clicker?
Or I might have to advance it for you because it goes into this where you have your thumb drive.
Just that bottom, right there. Okay. Just go ahead and click it. So just as a little bit of an update, the first phase of the Mapleton construction fiber optic construction project's well on its way. We released that first contract, as you know. And now it's really important that we start to focus on setting residential and business fiber optic utility rates. I think this is one of the most important things that we can do right now, just so that we can start promoting the site, promoting on our website, also on a lot of the multimedia services.
Relative to schedule, are we ahead of schedule by quite a bit, or just right on schedule?
Not quite a bit, but we are ahead of the schedule as far as where I was as far as the construction's concerned. And that's one of the big reasons why we increased that budget, is because we're going to have some construction contracts come due, and it's going to be right there at the end of that year. And so I want to make sure I had that money in there to spend.
Or we're running ahead pretty quick.
Yeah. Like I said, when we did release that contract, it was released in just right there around Christmas time, and the construction wasn't really going to start until January 1st, but those guys got on it and started doing stuff, so they were anxious to get going. So also setting rates that are going to be able to allow us to better inform our residents and businesses of what the costs are going to be and where they could possibly expect a service in their area. There's a few targets that I want you guys to just kind of concentrate on as we go through this discussion. When we did the bonding, did a snapshot of how many potential customers there were going to be, and as we did that, it was about 3,341 at that time. Go to the next one. The project take rate, as you know, if you read a little bit of the pro forma, was at 45%. So that puts us at about 1,503 connected customers at that target rate. Cost for construction was about $1,600 per passed home. So these are important ones just to kind of follow. Revenue break-even point was projected at $69 per connection. All of these are holding true right now, and so we're on target with these. But keep those in mind as we go into what some of these rates are going to be. So let's maybe identify some goals and objectives to be able to do tonight.
Matt, can I just confirm, the $1,600 was a projected rate a year or two ago with the rising
It was a
costs and
projected
things?
rate when I finished the feasibility
engineering.
study that was done 2 years ago, but then I did another one.
That's right.
And included, and it is as of that time, which is in that March frame.
Yeah.
Timeframe. But
But costs for a lot of things in supply chain concerns has gone crazy in the last 6 months. Do you have any concern about that?
I
raising it?
don't, just because, with the, when we already released the contract, I was comfortable with it. This second contract may be a little different, and so we'll see. But as far as a fiber optic utility is concerned, those rates stay pretty solid and pretty flat because there's not really an energy component to them like there is with water and power and gas. You have to come up with energy sources, and that tends to really raise and lower these rates. Unless there's any other unseen things like in construction costs. If they
Right, that's
excel,
specifically what I was talking about,
that's
was construction costs.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest one that we have to worry about. But right now, everything's on target.
Is the rate $69 for gigabyte?
Excuse me, can you talk to the mic?
What speed is the $69 at? Is that still a gigabyte or?
Well, we'll get right into that.
The 69 he was talking about was not the rate that we're proposing, that was the cost per.
Break even.
That's the break-even rate. That's if we were to set costs at that rate, there wouldn't be any revenue. It would just be a flat pass-through. Okay. Okay. So what we need to do is first, obviously, we need to compare rates of current providers that are out there, and our next slide will kind of show that. We need to establish a base rate comprehensive of the projected take rate, that 45%. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We need to establish simple speed tiers that we offer to the community. And we need to keep these simple. There is some out there that are offering a lot of rates, and it gets all mired down. And so we need to offer some simple ones. And then we need to consider offering a wireless router to customers. And for this reason, we want to make sure the customer has a good experience when they connect to our services. And then we need to also consider whether we're going to charge for installation or not. That's one thing that we need to deal with. Can you move that over a little bit, or is that even possible so they can see the rest of that? Oh, can you guys see it? Okay, great. Okay, so that very first one, as you look, these are our current providers that are in our area. I put our proposed from the staff where we thought that rates should be set. Of course, these rates are up to you guys. Bear in mind that minimum rate that we talked about, that $69 as our break even, okay? So Google is one that is not in Mapleton, but in our area and also coming to Springville. So residents and people in Mapleton will be comparing, and we'll be looking at, what Google is providing. Granted, Google is a very large company, and they're able to subsidize things and bring costs a little bit, down, but they're still, a public company, and they still have a profit margin to look at. Centricom is in our area. They do have a fiber to the home product that they are providing in Mapleton. I don't know if you guys know that. There's a few places on the outskirts of Mapleton that they are providing. Spanish Fork obviously is our neighbor. They have a couple of products. They have a cable product, and they're just now rolling out fiber of their own to homes. And those are those rates. CenturyLink is in our area. CenturyLink's been here probably since the early 1900s, 1904 or something, when they first had phones. It was copper in here. I don't know if it was CenturyLink at the time, but it's copper. It's a DSL product. That DSL product isn't very fast, but it would be conducive for maybe getting email. But as far as streaming or any other thing, you're going to want to throw rocks at it if you have that. And then, of course, our main competition, which is the Comcast. And as you look down through Comcast offers a lot of different tiers in speeds. They also cap their rates. If you look at upload and download speeds, you can see that download speeds are a lot faster than upload speeds. And they do this in order to save bandwidth and be able to offer it to more customers. And that's one of the reasons that they do that capping. Most of the other providers in our area don't cap, except for CenturyLink and, of course, Comcast. And also, if you look at the price per month, Comcast tries to entice and bring people in for a introductory rate for 1 year. And then, of course, after that year, they move to a lot more expensive type system. The very bottom line there on Comcast is these are their high-speed rates that they're not completely in our area. They're just certain areas have these rates. That 600 meg, and then the 1 gig, and then the 2 gig. And as you look at these costs, pay attention to, where these costs go at the end of that first introductory year. It's quite expensive.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
In your analysis of the competitors' costs, do you have a sense of what an average real cost is? So, for example, my bill's not going to be $29.99, right? I know I have taxes, but what are my other quote-unquote hidden fees? Do you have was that included in your analysis?
I looked a little bit at it, but I know that and as well as you guys know, they bundle, and these bundle costs they tend to show. If they bundle, then they can show these costs at a lower level. But in reality, no. I didn't really look at that, but I had to compare the real cost to me are those costs that are after that first introductory year. Okay, those are the real costs to me. And every one of these providers besides Comcast, have a flat cost. This is it. This is the cost. It's not metered. This is the cost for your upload and download speeds. And so that's how I had to attack this one, because it's very difficult to unbundle all of that. Even though when we set the cost for Mapleton, I don't know if you guys remember when I did the presentation on House Bill 149, they made it kind of difficult for municipalities to go ahead and set these rates and to be able to do this. And one of the things that they said that we had to do is when we set our rates, we have to include the same franchise fees and stuff that we charge others that are running in our systems. And so we had to consider that with the lobbyists that had written the House Bill 149. So that is in these figures, at least in the Mapleton figures.
Okay, so that's included in ours at least.
That's actually included in that 69, that flat rate. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is what we're proposing. We are looking at providing a 300 meg rate, a 1 gig rate, and a 2 gig rate. We're calling that 300 meg rate an affordable rate. This rate will be capable of doing streaming. Just there's not as many devices. If you look at how many devices in your home you stream a television, or you connect a phone, or you connect a TV, or even a camera system, this will provide a minimum level of access that will actually operate. If you start to, on this rate, if somebody picks this rate and they start to put multiple devices on, you'll start getting buffering in the system, okay? Our workhorse is what we plan on being is this 1 gig rate. This 1 gig rate is a super fast rate, and it will support many devices, probably more than the average home has in the system. And then we're also going to offer a 2 gig rate. This 2 gig rate is obviously double as fast, but it is for those who maybe want to work from home, want to put servers in their homes, and a lot of the techie people that are in our community that want to run something from their home. And then we got to talk about the wireless gateway. There's a couple of things I just want to bring to your attention. If we go out to the public and we provide this system out to the public, and say some of the public is on Comcast and they decide, well, we want to jump over to Mapleton. Well, if we don't provide some type of a wireless service to them or a router, then they're going to either have to go out and buy their own because Comcast is going to go away and they provide that router. Okay, the techie people in the industry and in the community, they'll have their own router. They'll just plug into a terminal and off they go. Okay, but in order to make this service something that people have a really good experience, we need to offer a wireless gateway router to them. There's two options as we looked at this. The first option is we'll provide the router and program it and put it in and maintain it for a $15 a month fee. And then the second option is we will provide a run-of-the-mill router for a cost, and we'll put it in and get it going and help the customer have a good experience with it. But after our installation, it is the customer's responsibility. It's just a one-time fee. They just purchase the router. We make sure that they're connected and have a good experience. And so those are things that we really need to consider to offer.
Can I ask what the router cost would be to us?
Right now, what I looked at is I looked at the best one that we thought out there, and that is that Nest. That's the Google wireless system. It's the easiest. It is the most easiest for a customer to maintain down the road, and has pretty good support. So if a customer chooses just to have us put a router in and then they maintain it, it'll be easy for them because it'll be set up on their phone. They'll be able to use the services that Google provides for those routers.
And what's that cost?
It's about $160. I've got it up
okay.
there at the time when we
So
looked
that's
at that.
that's break even. So okay, that's
Yeah,
break even.
and so
for us, yeah.
we'll have to, that's a base rate, obviously. And as we looked at this, this will provide them, I believe, with 2 pucks, so that it'll have a fairly good range around their home, depending on how big their home is. If it's a large home, you're going to have multiples of these systems that are in there.
So if I have I consider myself an average tech person, probably even below average. I'm not an early adopter, but I get online, and I get on the train and I do it.
Sure.
I don't want to manage my wireless router.
And
at
most
all.
people don't.
I don't. But just give me some perspective, because I don't fully understand this. When I have, my Comcast service goes down fairly regularly, I have learned that I just need to unplug it and wait 2 minutes before calling.
Sure.
With a fiber router, I'm just curious to understand more about what that means to manage it. Now, you're not going to unplug it from your central place, right? I don't think. No. What does that mean? What things would that entail?
Okay, I'll tell you. With our network operations center and the type of router that we would provide to the customer are compatible with our software, and we'll be able to reach into that router and see if a customer calls in and says, I got a problem. We can reach into that router and say, and do diagnostics. It's called a loop back. We can loop back stuff back into our NOC center to see if there's a problem with our service feeding out there to them, into the node or at their router. We can't reach in from the router into their home, into devices. We can only reach to that router, which is our router, and we will maintain that router. When I say maintain it, the biggest problem with routers that aren't maintained is the firmwares and how fast they change. And so we will be downloading firmwares and maintaining that software and the system to be able to do that. If you call in, there'll be an online tech that'll help you walk through some items, which they usually do with other routers, and help
Plug it
you
and
with.
wait a few minutes.
Exactly. Look on certain lights are on, and they'll be able to help you with some certain easy things. But then if it's more of a difficult thing, they'll reach into it, and if there's a problem with it, we send a tech out. What that management does is it really helps us in a couple of ways, because it keeps our truck rolls way down, especially if we can reach in there and find out what's going on without sending a tech right to your home, okay? And we can see that on there. Another thing with this residential side is We're proposing that we have a free access terminal and a free installation for residential customers.
And I was going to ask about that with the study you did with the other carriers, so the internet providers that are in the community. I know that with Comcast 5 years ago, I paid $100. Was that part of your study at all? Like which providers charge installation cost?
Yeah. We did, and most of the major carriers, which is the CenturyLinks and the Comcast, charge for those, depending on how many devices you get. And if you have like a DVR and those kind of things, because it takes a lot more programming to do those.
And is your reason for not charging installation just to make it more competitive and more of a reason for
It
them
is,
to
and to get people to connect and in that area. Also, the access terminal, we could drop off an access terminal to every home and say, we got fiber in your area, here you are, plug in, and off you go. But if they don't have a router, the router also comes with a firewall for protection. They will have to set up their own router, get all their wireless going in their home. It's just a good way to give them a great experience where we connect, and when we walk away, they're connected. And that was one of the reasons why we really wanted to really offer this routing system. And as I talk to others that are in the community or in other communities that are providing service, this is critical, very critical thing to offer.
I think it's a level of service worth paying for.
Right.
Right, and that's one of
And
the
the
things.
good thing about this one is with our take rates and stuff, these routers, we buy the routers are paid off in about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we keep on bringing that revenue stream in. And so really, they pay for themselves down the road.
Are they Wi-Fi routers, or is the Wi-Fi system separate that the customer pays for?
They're combined. The Wi-Fi router and the firewalls are all in one box.
I have trouble at my house. I need to have 3 boxes spread out to get good
Yeah,
coverage.
and that's the case, because there is these systems. Some of the, like on the Nest systems, you'll have a lot of pucks that you'll have to put in, depending how large your house is.
So who
I mean,
puts
if
the
it's
pucks in?
larger than a typical 2,500 square foot house, you'll have to put in some of these.
Which there's a lot of in Mapleton.
So who puts the pucks in, the customer or we do?
If we install, we'll put them in. They're just basically a plug-in, and then they tie back into the main router. It's really easy on the extenders. They just plug into different rooms.
Mine was fairly expensive, so I don't know, maybe I got gypped, I don't know. But the chipper ones wouldn't work.
I hope not.
I'm trying to figure out what type of customer would not want a router.
Probably the high tech people that know their system, they know what they want.
And stuff?
Oh, man, I'm a nerd. So that's one of my questions. So I'm your middle customer, so I own my own dual, so it's the dual router and Wi-Fi access point. And I bought it off of the list from Comcast. They say, here are the ones that will work with our system. So you'll have some people who are like me that bought a nice one of their own, and Comcast still will go in and be able to ping it and do what they need to do. So you have the customer who just wants the little freebie. You have got the one who wants full support, and then you've got me who's like, I own my own stuff, but can you help me with it sometime?
Right.
So how do you handle that?
Well, the access terminal, that's where that comes in. So for customers like you, we'll drop off an access terminal, you plug in, and it works.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And we can reach into the access terminal with the software as well and look to make sure our equipment's working.
So will we have a similar prescribed router list, kind of like Comcast does? We know these work well with our system?
Yes, we'll get that we use a Calix product, and we'll get that from Calix.
Okay.
We'll publish that.
In your analysis of the dollars, now, I have no doubt that we're going to have a lot of people across our city who are interested in Mapleton fiber. We all understand the necessity of getting as many people activated as possible, as soon as possible. In order to encourage those early adopters, have you considered any type of again, I'm an average consumer. I'm not an early adopter. I won't be the first one on my street to sign in because I don't want to have the headache of just having to deal with it. But to incentivize me or someone like me to be more of an early adopter, is there any kind of an incentive rate? $10 off for a year? I don't know what that incentive is, but have you considered that?
Yeah, we did. For this meeting is to set these base rates.
Okay.
And we talked about this, and what we wanted to do on this is offer like a senior citizen rate that can flow from where our base rate is, at least down to that, close to that 69, but not, in that area. We'll have some wiggle room in there to offer some decent rates for those who just want to get their email, and they just want to be able to be online with some of these systems. We also looked at possibility as we start to deploy in subdivisions that we could possibly advertise. We're coming into your subdivision and we're connecting a few of these homes. If you're interested, we're going to give you a $5 or $10 rate off of your bill for 6 months or a year, whatever. Okay, and this will allow us to incentivize people to connect at those times. And then, of course, you guys have the ability to do these incentives a lot more. And I just want to give you a good idea of where our base rate should be. And then as far as these incentives and bringing people in, I think that's a really good thing for the council to dive into and be able to
And Matt,
offer.
was that kind of the idea of the retreat, that we would have some of those discussions? Your goal tonight is get a comfort as far as the base rates that you're hitting on.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to accomplish tonight, is to get those base rates and those decisions on, so that we can promote this thing. We can at least get some things going. The promotional things really is something that we can bring as a staff to you, and then you guys can look at these things and see if you want to offer them, see if you don't want to offer them, if it makes sense to, those kind of things.
So, I'm a part of a lot of Facebook groups around I'm not part of Harvest Park, but it seems like I'm always seeing people post, or at least, I think, often at least, so people will post that they're having internet problems. What are their providers people in the neighborhood have? And so I feel like with early adopters, I'm not sure if we need to have like install incentive, because I think it'll spread like wildfire once those
May
people
not.
have
There's a lot of people that are just sitting there waiting
they're
for
just
this to
waiting
happen.
for
Yeah, you may not. I don't know. As we went over this multiple times on whether to offer a super cheap rate. Okay, it didn't make a lot of sense to have to do that at this point, but we still wanted to be really aware of those older folks in our community, and those who just want to talk to their grandkids and be able to get the email, and they don't want to have all this tons of stuff. But it's really up to you as a council on how you want to roll this out. As far as tonight's concerned, I just wanted to get to base rates, and these are where do we want to be on these?
I do like the seniors discount. I think we've been looking for something. Our senior community is vibrant.
It is.
They're engaged, and we've talked about, seniors who aren't using as much utilities across the board. So I think this one is somewhere where we actually could practically say, okay, well, let's go in and the seniors get 20% off or whatever it is. They drop, but only for that 300 level, because that's the whole point.
It is.
They got to be 300 meg. I'm not a discount on gig, because that's taking advantage. But I absolutely would love to see seniors closer to like 65. I think we'll have enough to cover for that. I'm not sure.
One concern would be, though, that we're probably going to get a lot more calls and truck rolls for that group of people than anybody else.
That is likely. We'd have to see how it balances out.
But
I don't really think
I'm
we
still
need
in favor of
incentive.
eating that cost or transferring that cost to somebody
Yes.
else, because I'm 100% in favor of.
Well, and
giving-
maybe that is a preliminary 1-year senior
Right.
discount, whatever. But from a logistics perspective, I didn't perceive it that the council would be involved in setting marketing strategies. I feel like staff would be the ones who decide, oh, we're going to do a $5 off discount. Is that something that would traditionally, I've never been involved with the city offering
Well, I think, this is the first time we've
Yeah,
owned
this-
a utility,
this is a
but
utility,
it's directly related to revenue and
Right.
revenue decisions. So I think it would
So it-
certainly be part of that.
And
I
it's
would
your
wonder
call.
to what extent would a market, that's for discussion later, but to what extent would we need to be involved in a marketing strategy like that? So, just
Yeah.
food for thought, but.
Okay, Matt, how did you, and I have no problem with this range of rates. I'm curious to know how you came to rest on these numbers, knowing what the break even is? Is there
Yeah,
a
I know,
method to
knowing
that?
what the break even is and looking at other rates that people were being charged in the area, specifically Comcast, which will be our major competitor.
So you just came in just enough below?
Yeah,
or
just
competitive
to
there?
know where they're at. Obviously, you guys can make these decisions to move these rates around. I mean, wherever you want, obviously. But I wanted to just give you an idea of where the staff thinks they should be.
I'd say to know Matt's met with myself in Dallas quite a few times as we've kind of went over this within the last couple of months. So I appreciate his efforts just in getting us to this point. So.
I would go to 79 and 89.
Yeah, I think I was in there a little wonky. It'd be 79, 89, 149, so you have something systematic. But I'm logged into my Xfinity account, and so I think your question is really valid about the fees. We know that we are legally obligated to add some similar fees, right? Isn't there
Well,
something
the similar fees are calculated into that 69.
Okay, so you're
That's
saying
our
it'll
break
look
even.
flat, but then the back end,
That's
we
right.
would eat those.
So you can see the profit margin that some of these carriers are
Okay.
carrying.
Yeah, I'm
legit.
seeing
Which is pretty
$27 in different fees on my monthly bill.
Yeah, and that's all on top of this.
Federal Universal Service Fund Regulatory Cost Recovery, which is their cost for dealing with regulatory people, a franchise fee, sales tax, state excise tax, 911 fees, that's probably
Yeah, well,
associated
the
with-
fees that we were required to record in there were the fees the city would be getting. Okay, so a franchise fee or whatever the city gets for
And
that
that's all baked into our number.
into the 69, into the break even,
So yes.
as the break even performer was snapshotted at that time.
Well, I can see, I mean, and I understand, coming in just lower than or competitive with the others, even if a 79 rate or an 89 rate is a few dollars higher, and I don't have those other rates up, but you know what, I think there are so many.
You can go back to that sheet if you want.
Yeah,
You
I
can
mean,
just
even if
kinda
that
see it.
base rate on ours is, even if it's a couple of dollars higher, I think there's not a household in our city who really who believes that Comcast is gonna end up at $80 a month, right? Everybody knows that it's going up, but when ours is baked in, even if we're a dollar or two above, I think there's a lot of value still there's a value proposition for our people. I don't see that as a detriment, even if we're a couple of dollars ahead, above.
We should couple it with, as we're talking about our recruitment or take strategy, the concept that we started in the first place was our customer service will be local and known. And, I look at this and I changed some service. It was a $70 fee to have Comcast come out and do one little thing, and the phone hold time is going to be real different. So we need to make sure we really emphasize the value provided. It's not just the fiber internet and the speed, but the value. So I also don't mind if we're, in the ballpark, but not the lowest player. Obviously, we have to be ballpark. We are required to be competitive with others. But the one that's weird, the 150, I was like, are we just come in half Comcast? That one is, that's most likely to be super geeks and like me. That's why I say that. And business, if we have businesses too.
Yeah, and I've got some other few more slides on that. Let's finish up those and then let's talk about this. So business rate. This is where we were looking at setting the business rate. We want to keep these same tiers with the addition of adding on some business rates, which are high-speed 5 gig service and high-speed 10 gig service. The system's capable of these types of rates, of speeds. And these are the costs that we came up with as far as where our cost performance came in at. Also, as you can see there, we want to charge in the business area the cost for the terminal and for installation. And the reason we came to this is businesses obviously are making money on this services, and we want to be able to make sure that we recoup some of these costs. Now, are we going to have a lot of business at this point? No. In fact, the modem systems that will provide these super high-speed rates, you know, we have a stock of those, but it's going to be a very small stock unless we have a business that wants to negotiate something else as far as a data center or something else. But, you know, we can take that on a case-by-case. Google, like I said, they have a couple of rates there, but their business rates, they negotiate every one of them. It's not a, you know, I found some that I could find out that they were charging.
Each one.
Yes, so they negotiate those out. And so,
Are we aware of like how long we can commit to these rates? Is it like a 3-year, we can stick with these rates, or 2 years?
in the cost performance, as we were looking at other utilities that had services that they've been providing, it's about a 5-year cycle. And so in the cost performer, we have a 5-year increase of about 3% every 5 years. Now, whether that is going to happen or not, it was projected at those numbers. And so that's something that we'll have to deal with if there is an increase like that. But I can't see that there will be that much of an increase unless bandwidth goes up for some reason. That we purchase bandwidth from a carrier to provide all this for everybody, and so that's going to be our energy, I should say.
I think that's another selling point, because with Comcast, I have no idea what they're going to charge me next year. And it just, like, it already went up $30 this year, and I don't know what it went last year.
They went up a certain percentage this year, if I remember.
Yeah,
and
so
these numbers I've shown you there, they were a snapshot I got in December. I didn't know they were going to increase, and so they're already higher than what those numbers are.
If we're to tell the public, you know, what the cost, like you'd say that this amount for 2 years, 3 years, you know, it's a locked-in rate, then I think that would be another selling point for getting more people to
Yeah, and that's really up to you if you want to commit to a locked-in rate. I would probably advise not to lock that in, but if you want to, that's your call.
Introductory rate and you lock it in for 2 years while we're building the system. That I would, but this can be the introductory rate.
So,
I agree. You got to have some numbering pattern with that. We need 9s on the end of everything, or 5s, because
Yeah.
and we can do that. We can make that look, you know.
So Matt, what
Make
do
it
you,
prettier.
what do you need from us? I mean, this isn't a motion, this isn't
Okay,
an item.
let's go on here just a little quick. I want to show you some revenues first, and
Okay.
then we'll talk about what I need. Okay, so if we look at total revenue at the proposed base rate, if you look at those years, I projected out these 4 years because we have a 3.5-year build out for this fiber system. Okay, in the first year, in 2022, we figure we're going to have about 10% on. That's our target. That's right around 250 to 300 people on. In 2023, we'll have 25% on. In 2024, we figure we're going to have 40% on. And then in 2025, we'll be at our target rate at 45%. As we talk to people in the community, this can be higher, okay? This was done through the feasibility study and what others have seen in other communities, okay? It's conservative, but I'd rather be conservative here and be able to make bond than, I mean, anything above those are going to be gravy for what we need here. At the first year, we're going to be about 360,000 and about 900,000 on that 2023, 1.4 and 1.6 respectively, as far as where our revenues are going to come in. So now let's look at costs. Go to the next one. Okay, go up back to the next one. There you go. So this is operating cost plus I added in the bonding expense. Okay, so if you look at this, it has the same period on it, the 10, the 25, and the 40 and 45%. But on year 2025 is when we start paying debt service, and that's about $560,000. And so that's going to kind of put a crimp in our style when we have to start paying for debt service. And so now let's go over and look at the revenue versus expense. Okay, so this first year, so you can see we'll be in the red in this first year because this is construction. We only have 10% that are going to be on. So this has been calculated into the bond and into our calculations. We'll be down $110,000, which is about a negative 30%. In year 2023, at 25%, we go positive. And we go positive to about a revenue margin of about 21%. And in 2024 at 40%, we go to about a 50% margin. That's an incredible margin. But if you look at 2025, when our bond debt service kicks in, it kicks us back down to that 20%. Okay? Now, these expense and revenues were looked at, you know, at a very conservative rate in what others were seeing in the industry. This is where we can be if we happen to get a better take rate, obviously, and if we charge for some other things, like the things that aren't in this is the charges for a router. Okay, and so I didn't figure that in because I don't know if we were going to do that or not. So there's that. There is installation costs. There's also on the business side, on that 5 gig and the 10 gig rate, there's a lot of companies out there like the Hulu and these streaming companies, Netflix, that like to place their servers in data centers. And what that does for them is they'll pay you a certain amount of money to place their server in our rack. And then it just gives the community a better access to their streaming service. But there's money to be made in those services as well that is not in this. This is very conservative numbers for where we want to be. So go to the next. So here's the questions that we need answered. So where should that minimum base rate be set on these rates? Where do we want to set those? Are the proposed speed tiers sufficient for Mapleton businesses and residents, in your opinion? As we study this, we think they are. Should Mapleton offer that router and wireless solution for its customers? And then the last one is, should Mapleton charge for that terminal and that installation? These are the questions that we'd like to see if we can at least get you guys on the same page and understand where we want to be.
Let me speak to the kind of the overall answer for all of this. I think it goes, for me, this all goes back to 2 years plus ago when we were trying to figure out if we wanted to do this or not. And for me, I was pretty hesitant because I didn't know if I wanted to support Mapleton going into providing this. And we heavily looked at Spanish Fork. We were heavily enticed by Spanish Fork, and I personally compared the notion of doing this to Spanish Fork's success. And so a lot of my selling of this to citizens over the last 2 years has been, the service is going to be outstanding because we're going to have it in-house, because that's what Spanish Fork provides, and they have a 78% take rate, which is unheard of, right? The installation would be free because that's what Spanish Fork provided. And that was a big deal to consumers. Look, when you go to Spanish Fork Network, you pay your monthly fee and you get outstanding service and you get no extra fees and no extra costs. And you get somebody at your door the next day when you call. To me, that is the gravy of, and the reason why I even agreed to support a network was because why compete with the market when the market's already there? The only reason to me was to provide a way better service at a community-owned and community product that we all love, right? So to me, it's easy. It's the base rate. The rate should be set enough for us to cover costs. But any extra costs, my gut feeling is, man, if we want people to like this and we want people to have a good experience, to me, at least for me and the people that I've talked to, I wouldn't charge an installation fee. I would try and build that into the cost of so that it's blind.
Even on the business level?
No, the business level is a different story for me.
Right.
I would totally be okay with charging the businesses whatever. One, because they can write it off, and that's kind of their business, right? They're making revenue to pay those kinds of bills, and the fact that we're not going to have that many to deal with anyway. So, anyways, that's my take on the whole thing, and that's
So
why,
are you comfortable with the rates that we've proposed?
as you have them here, yeah, that's basically what we were kind of, I think, guessing when we were even kind of coming up with this. We're not gonna compete with Spanish Fork. Spanish Fork's been in it for so long, and they have so much top-heavy money that they can charge their citizens $45 for fiber internet, which is unheard of. I hope that one day we get to that point, matter of fact, that's my goal, is to tell citizens, look, this is a product that we are creating as a city and a community so that we can provide ourselves the best product when it comes to internet service, and it's going to help our revenue in the end, and it's going to provide an avenue to make it so that those rates aren't, so that as citizens we can comfortably think in 10 years from now that $88 rate isn't going to be $125 or $400, because we're controlling this
Or if it
system
is, I
ourselves.
know I'm gonna have some pretty sweet roads in front of my house.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Can I say that?
So that's my take on the whole thing, is I think it needs to be a pretty package, and it needs to be a really, really inviting service, and no extra stuff, because people just get turned off by that, really.
Yeah, no bundling, no, I mean, I agree with you so much.
Again, I'm your average consumer. I will pay for convenience. I want an experience, right? I want convenience and experience. Don't require any more bandwidth from me than what you need. So I would say the minimum base rate be set, my recommendation would be $79, $89, $150, and then the commercial rates are where they are. I'd go up a couple of bucks on those first two tiers. Speed tier sufficient, I think they are. Yes, offer the wireless router, and no, don't charge for a connection terminal. That's my position, and I concur with the reasons that Theron has shared.
Awesome.
If that was discussed previously, then I'm okay with not charging an installation fee. So I'm comfortable with the 79 base rate as well. Tiers I thought looked good. I definitely think we need to have a solution for a wireless router. I'm that customer that I need a list of what router I can buy, or you can just give it to me. So we need to make sure we think about that. And then I'm okay with not charging an installation cost.
Yep. Oh, can I ask a quick question now? If, I'm going to buy my own router, and then will you give me a discount?
I'll just drop you a box and you won't have to pay for a router.
Okay. Okay.
The box will be free.
Okay.
I concur with what's been said so far, except for I want the rates to be prettier for marketing purposes.
Well, when I were putting this
The
together, I
nines
mean,
on
I did
everything.
have decimal points and all kinds of crap going on, so
No,
I just
not decimal.
I moved stuff around, so I probably made it
Decimal
ugly.
points, that makes it more complicated. Just make them systematic.
Okay.
But in generally, yeah, I think the rates are fine. I think your tiers are plenty. That's not a reflection on your life. Definitely the routers. I agree. This is going to be about, do we provide a white glove service that lures people over?
Yeah, well, the router, and I didn't mention this, the router also comes with an app system that goes on your phone, and you'll be able to see your stuff when you're not there, and your cameras, and, it's quite a service.
And I think the charge for the connection, I agree about, I could go either way on it, but if we're trying to lure people onto it, I'm more interested in their long-term monthly than a $35
Yeah, that's
connection
much better
fee.
revenue.
So I'd rather not make the 35 up front and then make the rest to cover it over.
Exactly.
So I'm good with what everybody else has said so far too.
Sure.
Maybe you
Great.
could put something in, first 6 months are free with that. After that, they have to pay for that.
The box, the terminal part of it was part of the bond, and so that's,
I would just
I don't
include
know
it.
that-
It's part of
yeah,
an
so-
elevated level of service.
But when you get to the higher speeds, and the 5 gig, so the workhorse box, the workhorse terminal for us is that we'd be dropping off to homes, will do anywhere from 0 to 2.5 gigs. Okay, so we can support a lot of people with that. But if we start going to the 5 and the 10 gig, then it gets a little bit more expensive for end equipment. And I really think that needed to be pushed off to a business.
But the people that are going to require that are going to be people that are willing to spend that extra money.
Sure.
And willing to
Sure.
matter of fact, do it themselves.
Yeah, we just thought that a free installation and box would just really entice people to.
I think it's low cost, and it's got a big upside.
Sure.
Yeah.
It seems if the router is also provided, then some of the other questions and service questions, related questions, there'll be fewer of those, and there'll be a better frequently asked question section where it's probably pretty standard,
Sure,
response.
and the best part for us is it limits our truck rolls out to the customer.
Reed, do you have thoughts that you'd like to share?
Just going to ask about whether everybody's bill came due the same day? In other words, they signed up, everybody signs up on a different day.
Yeah,
Well,
what we wanted to do first is to go out with this, as soon as we decide on our branding and the website and stuff, is to go out and have a way for residents to get on and do interest, okay, in their area. And so we can see who's interested in the area. Obviously, I would deploy in as many areas as we can, but if I have a lot of interest in areas, it'd be nice to be able to deploy in those areas. We are going to
Challenge is
concurrently,
on.
you know,
Game on.
Come on, city council, we're each gonna take that on to get our
and
own
I know you
areas,
guys
right?
will, she's already
I've
been
already
all
got them
over.
lined up.
But, you know,
Casey and I, chief, we're chasing the south.
you know, as we looked at this, we were thinking, you know, we're still going to deploy in the new subdivision areas. Those are one of our common areas to go in because we've already had the developers put infrastructure in. And so we're going to deploy in those, but if we see a lot of interest in some of these areas, we're going to go deploy in there. You know, we're going to do our best to do that and get such stuff online.
And the first customers will probably be online end of the year.
Yeah, we're hoping that 10% will be in that, the end of that year. Is that about 300, I think it is, 300 people is our target. So
Maybe give them the first month free, too.
it's up to you.
I don't think we have to.
That's-
I think it's just going to be really popular, and that's my take on it.
Reed, do you have any other comments or insights?
No, I think you've done a good job so far. I think it's, this is not an easy thing to start, not an easy thing to roll out. And I think looking at the data with your work experience in the past, what you've done and how you're trying to apply it here, we very much appreciate what you've done.
Thank you, I appreciate the support there.
Very good
It's been a
project.
fun project. I've enjoyed it.
So, council members, our next city council meeting, that first one in February, the plan would be to come back now with that rate structure for approval. We get that on the books, then we can start, like Matt said, getting that word out. Then if, as far as the retreat, if there's topics that you would like us to address, we can, as it relates to this topic.
So if we're actually going to look to approve a rate structure, that's gonna be public information, why not establish a place we can gather data or geotag interest immediately? Why would we wait for that?
Yeah, it's good.
The reason is they're questions. People want to know what the costs are. They want to know right now what those costs are. That's
Right.
why we're in front of you right now. They want to know what the costs are, and if we go out there, I mean, I imagine we can go out there and say, "Are you interested?" But I'm going to get tons of, you know. I would like to give information out of
Well,
what
that's
those
what I'm
costs-
saying.
think
When
that's what-
when I
yeah.
push the agenda out to my Facebook people or whatever and say we're gonna be pricing these, people will say when, and
Yeah.
then I can say, if you're interested, log your name and address on this Google form or whatever.
Suggesting collecting it right up front with the release
Simultaneously,
of
yeah.
the dollars.
Why
yeah.
wait? We're
Oh,
going
yeah.
public with
without
rates.
the release of the rate, or with the
Both.
release?
No,
of
no,
the
no,
rate?
But
after
the rates
releasing.
will be public information
As soon
if
as
we're
we
approving
confirm
it.
them, as soon as we
So
adopt them.
people will want to.
I'm with you.
We
I'm
could
with you.
start creating the energy.
Sure.
People will ask, that's what I'm
You know,
saying,
you
is
could
people
do it,
will
you could
ask.
do a Google Doc.
That's what I'm saying is.
Let's do this,
I've
Matt.
had so many inquiries of, when's it going to be in my area? How much? They
Oh.
want to know. They want to know what's going on.
I'm constantly getting asked.
I just
all
hate the
time.
opportunity
Yeah.
to miss valuable
Yeah,
data. And
Oh,
Or
sure.
we
this
could
is
do
a
something as
catalyst
simple
for a
as a Google
conversation.
Doc.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Matt, let's me and you and Madison sit down and come back to them with that as well. I
Simple,
like
a
that.
simple form, if nobody uses it, it's no harm, and you can use it later. But if you create that simple form, that'll help you sort by
Yeah, yeah.
geotag, that you
I'll
can
bet
map them
Madison
out,
could
and
do a
then you can
Qualtrics
suddenly
survey.
see these hot points come out. That'll be great for you.
I think if it's advertised as well, like it'll be a good selling meet. Like we can probably sell a lot in that meeting because we'll have more eyeballs into the meeting.
Sure. Yeah, my only concern is that I get too much and I can't get to these people. You know, I can't get to their area, even though we'll know that interest is there. And, we fully intend on the website is to have an area where construction happening and where it is available for those who are signing up as well. But
If you don't put a place for us to organize the information, it will come to you more chaotically.
yeah,
Yeah,
So if you have an introductory language that says, we anticipate rolling out, even if you said 2023, and we're interested in our residents who may be interested in it.
Just
And
raise
that's
your
all it
hand.
is.
Sure,
That's it.
yeah, I
Maybe
agree.
that's
I
You're
agree.
not asking for a commitment, you're just looking at, is there interest? And those people can feel like they've submitted their name. This isn't, you have to answer every single one of them. This is just
Collection.
speaking interest, collecting some addresses, but
Well-
if you don't organize it, you're going to get it in a
They're gonna be calling
disorganized
us,
way.
yeah, they'll be calling us like crazy.
And then long-term process,
want
you can
that.
update a website with those types of updates in time,
Yeah.
but this is more of an
Definitely want to be
immediate.
organized
Yeah,
with
and
that.
to me, I like it because I pushed it hard and I got a lot of questions and spoke to a lot of people a year or 2 years ago. And then it's been a long time. People are starting to now ask me again. This is a really good interim to say, hey, this is the progress. We've set rates. Now, what is your real interest? At this rate, would you really sign up? And this is our projected timeline over here. So it's kind of an interim connection with the people and give them an update. So I love it.
Use the rates
I
to
like the geotag idea, that'll be really
It'd be very helpful.
and use those rates to leverage lower internet pricing this year and then switch to us.
Oh,
Full Comcast.
Wasn't it kind of talked about it being $99 a month?
I think it's always been in the 70s.
No,
I thought I saw that in writing somewhere. In the
It seemed like
original
on one of the feasibility studies, it showed a $99 tier, but I think that was the.
Another city or something in
I
the,
think it was in the first feasibility study.
Like on
Yeah,
the
kinda
high
way
end,
back,
on a
it
high
seemed like
end.
there was $100 topic, yeah.
depending on the speed, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
it was one of the
That was a
upper
gig.
tiers.
Yeah.
I
So
told-
if we can be below that, I think that's good, because I
Yeah.
think that's in a lot of people's mind.
Yeah.
I had an inquiry from a techie designer in the community even today. I haven't heard much. What's going on? I was like, ooh, the pricing, we're looking at that tonight. And I said I expected around 75. That's what, but that's for the base, and that's okay.
All right, Matt, does that help you
It
with
does.
what you need?
It's great.
It's exciting.
Just what
Great.
we needed, thank you.
Great
Wonderful.
job.
You're right on target.
How do we close, do we just,
Close the
motion to
meeting?
close the meeting?
So
Motion to adjourn?
moved.
All in favor?
Second?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Thank
excuse
you.
me.
Wait, we're gonna make a motion next meeting
We moved to
to
use
unify
only
whether we
yes.
use yes or I, not both.
We don't understand, Theron and I, it wasn't three of us, we did not have a quorum. We didn't understand why we close with I. We vote everything yes, and then at the end of the meeting, it's I. Is there any context on this, Corey?
Yeah, let me research that, I think.
No, we don't
Gotcha.
care.
Yeah, it's
Don't
okay.
really care.
Google it.
I actually care now.
See, it should have been all I along, like all I or
Either
all.
all I
So
or
Theron
all
and I
yes.
were like, we're changing this. It's a Mapleton. Well, right, so I don't know
I'll look
why,
at
it was-
it.
anyhow. So
I remember
let's go
asking
with
Mike
yes
Nelson
from
in
now on.
2014 when I first started coming to the city council.